One.
Hello everyone, this is my informative speech for COM 181. Since I'll be vacationing here this summer, I thought it'd be fitting to do research in my informative speech on Mount Rushmore. This iconic monument is visited by more than 2 million people around the world each year, and today I'll be telling you why so many people come to visit such an historical site. My main focus I'll be informing you about is Mount Rushmore's history, how it was made, and one interesting fact about this beautiful piece. I'll start with Mount Rushmore's history. For those of you who don't know what Mount Rushmore is, it's a sculpture on a side of a mountain in the Black Hills of South Dakota. According to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, on an article called Mount Rushmore People, published on October 25th, 2017, Dwayne Robinson is known as the father of Mount Rushmore. He was a local historian who came up with the idea of Mount Rushmore in 1923. He wanted to create an attraction that would bring people to South Dakota, especially since at the time not many people visited South Dakota. Mount Rushmore is named after a New York City attorney, Charles E. Rushmore, and it's actually a pretty funny story. It was 1884, and Rushmore was sent to South Dakota to follow up legal titles on properties. On his quest, he had a local tour guide accompany him named Bill Chalice. One day, Rushmore asked Chalice what the name of the mountain was called. Chalice said it didn't have a name, but he promised him from then on he'd tell people that it was called Mount Rushmore, and the name stuck. Neither one of them knowing at the time that it would be a famous monument, and surprising that the artist didn't rename it after it was completed. That leads us to the question, how was Mount Rushmore made? Robinson decided on Danish-American sculptor Gutzon Borglum for the project, and after many years of exploring the area, they both agreed on Mount Rushmore, mainly for the quality granite and the magnificent location. The mountain faces southeast, which means it gets maximum sun exposure, and that was very important to Borglum, not only for the increased work hours, but he wanted the tourists to be able to enjoy his sculpture in as much sunlight as possible. Mount Rushmore stands at a little over 5,700 feet above sea level, which gave Borglum plenty of room to work. The sculpture is composed of America's founding fathers and presidents, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. Carving started on October 4th, 1927, and Borglum was assisted by more than 400 workers who were all harnessed and lowered on the side of the mountain. They started the project with jackhammers, which weighed approximately 30 pounds. After they drilled the holes, they would use sticks of dynamite to blow big sections of the granite. Once they got closer to where the faces would be, they started what's called the honeycomb technique, which is where they drilled honeycomb-looking holes about an inch apart, which you can see there. And once they got to the holes, they would then take their hammers and chisels and knock the rock in between the honeycomb holes that they created. To give the faces a more smoother look, they used a tool called an air hammer, which you can also see there. And that would buffer out the remaining rock, and it gave the faces the look that it has today. Now, could you imagine having to walk more than 700 steps to get to work each day? Well, Borglum and the workers did just that. Not to mention it was all uphill, and sometimes in severe weather conditions like snow or severe heat. It was also reported that the majority of workers did not like heights. But during this time, it was the Great Depression, and they took any job that they could get. The sculpture was completed on Halloween in 1941, and surprisingly, in the whole 14 years it took to complete Mount Rushmore, there were no fatalities. Lastly, I like to tell you one interesting fact about Mount Rushmore. Robinson's original idea had nothing to do with Mount Rushmore, or American presidents for that matter. It was said his idea was to have Western heroes, such as John Fremont, Lewis and Clark, Sacagawea, and Buffalo Bill in the surrounding area known as the Needles. When Borglum inspected the site, he said the Needles pillars were too thin to hold and support any type of sculpture. According to an article titled Mount Who, written by Jim Burnett and published on the website nationalparkstraveler.org on June 2nd, 2009, Borglum was opposed to the idea of carving Western figures, saying that it should be a national monument commemorating American founders and builders who best exemplified the foundation, expansion, preservation, and of the Republic, which Washington, Jefferson, Roosevelt, and Lincoln all did for the United States. To conclude, I hope I was able to inform you about Mount Rushmore's history, how it was made, and one interesting fact you never knew before, and why 2.4 million people are estimated to visit the beautiful sculpture this year alone. I believe Borglum and Dwayne Robinson would not only be proud, but shocked at how many people now come to visit South Dakota. It's an ultimate American experience, and I can't wait to see it this summer.